As parents, do we really want to go through and make our kids learn in the most boring, dreadfully painful way possible? Or do we want to find a way to make everything as fun and entertaining as possible? I'm Wes from Ridir Gaming, and we're talking about how we can think outside the box using video games. Really easy, quick solution, right? Like no parent has ever had problems with this, having a kid or their spouse or themselves shut down because learning this new skill is just really hard and it's frustrating them and they cannot figure out what's going on. To me, I think that making it more interesting is probably the better solution. If we make it hard for our kids to learn and we make it painful and boring and still, then maybe we kill our kids' love of learning and that creativity. And I don't want to do that. Going through and finding these ways to make it more fun and gamified, probably a good way to do it. Now, gamification doesn't rely on video games, but it does rely on the gamification process. Two totally different things. It's really simple. Right now, schools are factories of learning. Like think of a factory where you have all the parts go down on a conveyor belt and they're very still and you just continue to do the same thing time after time after time after time. And it's just boring. It's rote. It's not an interesting way to learn or do something. Writing lines 10 times each or doing your multiplication tables 40 times each or whatever it is. It's just boring. And I wouldn't look forward to doing that again. So the counter argument to this is instead of saying, I want to go through and do 40 multiplication tables, what if there's a way to make this a game and make it a reward on the other end of it? What if we made it easier to get our kids to want to learn to read by introducing them to Lego worlds where they have to read what the characters are saying? That's a buy-in for them to want to learn to read. And it's a kid-safe, kid-friendly video game. Now, there are other video games out there that are going to teach them that they have to deal with money, they have to deal with resources. Those are typically role-playing games. Some of those are very kid-friendly and others are a little bit more mature. So depending on what level, grade, or how old your kid is, there is something appropriate for them. Because not everything that needs to be taught is necessarily taught in schools. Money, finances, resources, limited quantities, cost-benefit analysis, that type of stuff can all be taught through video games. Last but not least, I know that kids are active learners. They like getting up and moving around. Video games are not going to be the primary way to do instruction or teaching or school. I don't want my kids to be sitting down in front of a computer all the time. I think we've all seen that with kids trying to do Zoom for school. It's painful, it's hard, it's not worth the effort or the buy-in. I want my kids outside running around and learning outside as much as possible. And then I supplement it with video games and other things. But the gamification process can be used for outside as well. Being able to give them a reward for doing the task correctly is a gamification process. Rewarding them for coming back on time when they're learning time is a gamification process. Starbucks gamifies us coming back to them with their star program. That's gamification in one of its most basic and simple forms. They're giving us a reward for our loyalty. We can do the same thing for teaching our kids time, multiplication, math, it's all there. What I'm trying to say is by using games, gamification, board games, outside games, all types of games, we can help our kids' retention with school and what they're learning. And then we can also use video games and board games and games in general to help teach life lessons that aren't necessarily taught in school anymore. I'm talking about home ec, how to balance a budget, cost benefit analysis, all that stuff from before absolutely can be taught through video games because those are all resources and skills that have to be managed in some of our more intricate and dedicated games. I also recommend teaching other things like mental and emotional resiliency through gaming, and I think that that would be a great video for you to watch next. Oh, just so happens I have it, so why don't you watch that next? This is Wes from Ridir Gaming. Hit subscribe, hit like, do good, play hard, game on, and I'll see you in the next video.